The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Here we go. Good morning, listeners. It's 8:37 a.m. because we are, we're going to be late every week. Let's be honest. It is the breakfast bar, though, and this is the last one ever. And I think I'm going to say that every single week as well. Johnny Logue joins me, bright and chirpy as ever. How are you, mate? You good?
Oh, I'm absolutely fine, mate. Been up since 5:30. Took the wife to work. Had my breakfast.
Like, how do folk function at this time of the...
It's called living in the real world, Russ.
I don't understand it, mate. I'm a gulp of water and burp. I'm all the shop at this time of morning, man. Honestly, I don't know how folk do it. It's bizarre. But anyway, I'm here. And as soon as, I'm telling you right now, people think, right, Phil McGinley is he's the night. I'll go Roy Keane for a minute on you, Johnny, right? Oh, you think he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. There's nothing nice about Phil McGinley, right? Apart from what you see on camera. He's sadistic. He loves... that's me just set up the breakfast bar for you, Boycie. That's me just set up the breakfast bar for you. I'm like, he loves this more than setting up a quiz for me. Do you know what I mean? Look at Monty already panicking. The last one. It's not really the last one, Monty. I'm gonna say this every week, mate. Don't worry. It's just I like my beauty sleep. Can we call it that? No, probably not. Probably not. But Johnny, it's nearly Christmas, mate. We nearly got a wee stocking filler last night in the old SPFL as well.
We certainly did.
We nearly did. We didn't quite. There'll be a few debates about that as to why we didn't as well. And obviously Celtic play tonight, so we're going to be previewing that big time because back at Paradise in the first time in over a month. I think that's the real talking point. And I want to as well get your opinions this morning on Ange Postecoglou, who seemed to me in, shall we call it fine fettle yesterday at the presser. I'll give you a few quotes, Johnny, to take away. Don't worry, I don't expect you to. I didn't send you any homework this week, mate.
No, but I've done it. I got up this morning expecting to see the email. Just check that video, that media conference from yesterday. Get it done.
See, I mean, we're just raising standards all over the place. You know what I mean? People accuse of us being bitter. I call it better. Anyway, before we get into everything we're going to be talking about this morning, this fine, what day is it? Wednesday morning. We'll get all that good stuff out the road. And all that good stuff means if you've not subscribed to the Boycie Bus yet, why not? 3,100 and something of yous have. Make sure you're not one of the ones left behind when this bus pulls away. Get subscribing. Everything we do is going to be free of charge. But if you want to become a Boycie Bus member, that is, of course, optional. Loads of yous have, and we really appreciate it. Who's members that are in right now? Celtic on the Hill, Patrick McLaughlin. Legends. Thank you. But don't worry about it. If you're not a member, you still got the content anyway. It's just a wee doff of the cap to the bus, and it keeps our wheels on the road. If you want to share the podcast, that always helps as well on your wee social media pages, whatever they may be. I say we, I mean, it could be a massive social media following you've got. I don't know. And what else is it they have to do? Oh, if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or whatever podcast download stream you use, a big shout out to you as well, because we have went tenfold on that front of late. Johnny, I sent you some stats through the week. You get, yeah, I'm not lying, eh? Like the audio downloads have went from like, it's hard to describe it because it was all right. It was doing okay, and then it just went boof. I did send it. Did you see the graph?
Yeah, I did see you sent it on the WhatsApp group. But I'll be honest, I don't know what that's to compare it to. If I'm being honest, like I'm not very good with all that kind of.
Just our own shows.
Just our own stuff.
Like,
yeah,
it just went like that, and then just suddenly it's went. Woof.
Yeah.
So
big jump up, eh? Massive.
Aye, delighted with that, man. Delighted with that. Anyway, Johnny, as it stands, the SPFL title race is very much on because we're only 6 points clear. That can all change by the end of play tonight, of course.
Certainly hope it's going to change, and fully expect it to change. Last night, and for up until 2 minutes before the end of the game, it was looking like we could be going 12 points clear tonight. But unfortunately, I expected a penalty, if I'm being honest, to come along. But almost, as soon as they equalised, I thought they're going to grab this, and I suppose, for 5 or 10 minutes, I was probably feeling the same way as Rangers fans were feeling on Saturday after McGregor scored in the 87th minute. But I think their relief was more palpable than ours, because they were staying at their best last night. If they'd lost that last night, and to be honest with you, boys, I'd have quite happily settled for the 2 each in the end. It wasn't to be, of course, because I don't think there was much of a difference between whether they lost or whether they drew.
That's true.
I reckon it was as broad as it's long, sort of stuff. But getting that back to 6 points tonight, and they'll be hoping that Livingston do to us what they done to Rangers just before the World Cup with the 1-1 draw. Grab an early lead and hold on to it for grim death, right to the very end, and just sneak it back a little bit. Chip away at us a little bit. They desperately need and want to reduce that gap before January the 2nd.
I agree. I mean, Johnny, the one thing I watched last night, particularly first half, was two very poor teams at playing football. I'll be quite frank. It was a terrible game of football. The standard wasn't there, mate. They can kid on all they want. It was poor what I watched yesterday. I don't think the battle they've got right now is as much against themselves as it is against the rest of this league. I think they're finding their feet, obviously a new manager and all that. But genuinely watching that last night, I just felt, we're going to talk about Ange's comments later, but we are on our own train. This league will be defined by what we do, not by them scraping wins. And yes, a Christmas present would have been lovely. We would have all loved the drop points yesterday, and I'd probably had a Santa Claus hat on the day. It never happened. That's okay, because it's back to us tonight. And I just feel we've got the bit between our teeth. They look like they're scraping about for points, effectively. And I just feel that very much this is all in our destiny. It's all going to be defined by what Celtic do.
Oh, definitely. There's only one team can win or lose this title, and that's us. And yeah, I agree with what you're saying last night about the game. I think the 3-2 dresses it up a little bit.
Yes.
Makes it sound, if you just read the report, Rangers took the lead, Aberdeen got it back, then they took the lead, And in the last 2 minutes of injury time, Rangers grabbed it and won it. It makes it sound like it was really exciting. Yes, we score late goals. You know, we're being sort of renowned for it at the moment.
Yeah.
Although, in all honesty, it's not really anything new. I mean, it's been going on for years, us winning games with late winners. Difference being is we actually expect to get these late goals.
Yes, Johnny. Is that how you felt? Is that how you felt? Because I've not had your thoughts. Obviously, you've not been on since last midweek breakfast bar. Bloody breakfast bar. You've not been on since the breakfast bar last week. There was a weird. I'm in your camp very much. When we got the latest goal, 86, 87 minutes,
Yeah.
which we also need to remember, it's now 97-minute games of football that are in the SPFL, if you were watching or you're paying attention last night. So if it's that long, I mean, we scored 10 minutes before the end. It was a late-ish goal, not a last-minute goal that we got at the weekend. But all the jokes aside, I fully expected us to get the goal that Calmac scored. I didn't know who would score it. I didn't know the type of goal we'd get. But I was never panicking at any point either, mate.
No. I mean, I was at work. I didn't see all the game. I was only able to watch bits of it. I've probably seen most of it, but I was still thinking. I was sitting parked in my bus watching it on the phone, and I'm thinking, we are going to get this. And I think Phil McGinley actually put on our WhatsApp group that he was always quite confident of getting the winner.
I was as well.
And I think, as I've just said, that is the difference between us. We expect it. I think last night Rangers were more hoping for it than expecting it. And Rangers supporters, definitely. I would have loved to have Aberdeen to hold on, obviously, for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But one of them, just to see the fan reaction, the Rangers fans' reaction last night if they got beat would have been something interesting to see. They bought into the Beale ball and see if they were going to bail out of it just as quick,
I call it the Beale boil, mate, because whatever that is in his face, that was growing bigger and bigger as they kept going back to him, man. Honestly, that's like, I couldn't stop looking at it, Johnny. Honestly, every time the camera cut to him, it was getting bigger and bigger. That's just a wee joke. Sorry, Mickey, whatever your name is. But I think when I watched this play against Aberdeen, I watched theirs, and I think Aberdeen afforded them the luxury to play a bit more because Aberdeen came out a wee bit more. Aberdeen looked far better team than what they did at the weekend. People want to read into that. And the narrative is bizarre in the media, right? And we talk about narratives quite a lot in the bus, Johnny. The narrative that really amazes me is Aberdeen are a disgrace. The tactics are a disgrace. And we spoke about it a bit in the bus. We thought there's ways to lose and things. Then we watched Aberdeen last night and I thought, has anyone ever given that wee second thought to Aberdeen respect one of the opponents and don't respect the other quite as much? That's what I saw. That's what I'm saying. I've watched the 2 games in a row in the space of 4 days. There is a difference with how Aberdeen approach the games, absolutely, undeniably. But I think it's a shout out to, we know Celtic are shit hot. We know you're there for the taking. That's the impression I get.
That's exactly what I was just going to say to you as well. Actually, that he set his team up against Celtic, hoping to get a draw.
Yep.
Because he didn't expect to beat Celtic. And he set his team out last night and he got his team to play last night because he actually thought, we've got a chance of winning this game. Admittedly, he thought the same, I think, when I never seen their game at Ibrox when Rangers won 4-1 just before Gio's demise. But he set his team up apparently in much the same way as to have a go and it backfired dramatically. But you can see from Saturday's game and last night, he set his teams up 2 different ways, 2 completely different attitudes. We can win this game is what they were thinking last night. That is the difference. I don't expect to beat Celtic, and I just hope we can sneak a draw out of it. But he was actually thought they could win last night. He fancied that.
Aye, I think so. I wanted your thoughts as well. Me and you had a wee disagreement in the old chat. I mean, and by the way, friendly. This is the thing in the modern world, Johnny. Right? Me and you're cut for a different cloth. We accept people having different views on football without it being personal. These days everyone's that thin-skinned. Some of the nonsense you see folk, honestly, is embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? I was getting accused yesterday, without my name getting mentioned, right? Or I don't know if it was yesterday or the day, of having a burner accounts or multiple burner accounts on Twitter. I'm like, I think folk need to accept that they're getting slagged off or they're getting criticised. Maybe it's just people's opinion. And I think when we speak in that we WhatsApp group chat, there's often disagreements, isn't there, Johnny? Often there is. And that's, I think it's healthy. There's nothing personal. It's just different viewpoints. And we've all got the bollocks to air it. And I think that's refreshing, which it shouldn't be. It should just be, for me, that should just be standard. However, we all know the world's moved on and oh my God, Johnny's disagreeing with Boycie. And people get a wee bit carried away with that stuff. But you felt Alec McGregor should have done a lot more with the free kick. I thought the techers for the Duke, I thought it was outstanding, mate. I've seen Del Piero score those type of goals. I've seen Cristiano Ronaldo score those type of goals. Again, another pantomime villain for the sake of it. I don't know. I just think I thought the goal should have been applauded more. Andy Walker seemed to spend that full, they get about 45 seconds to a minute sort of like of all the different angled replays before the game restarts.
Yeah.
All of it seemed to be focused on the goalkeeper. And I suppose I would be like that if it was my team that were getting beat as well. Isn't that right, Andy?
Yeah, but I think McGregor should have saved that. I hate the very fact that I'm actually agreeing with Andy Walker on anything, but I think he should have saved it. It was don't get me wrong, it was a good free kick, and if it had been a Celtic player scoring, I'd thought brilliant. But if that same time, if that had been Joe going past Joe Hart, you could have done better with that. I'll tell you something. I firmly believe McGregor would have saved that even 2 years ago. I think he's gone on too long. I mean, Rangers kept him out of desperation last year. I think I don't know. Desperation or loyalty.
He did all his goodbyes, didn't he? He did all his farewells, and then suddenly was given a year's extension, and you thought, right, okay.
When he came on for the last 30 or 40 seconds, whatever it was in the cup final last year, that was his goodbye. Thanks for the memories. I've enjoyed it here. Time for me to move on. Time for me to retire. And I stick by. I think he should have saved. He should have saved that. I think it was a good free kick, but it wasn't unsavable. I think he should have got it.
Aye, it's weird. I know what you mean. I know what you mean because it looks like it's hit the keeper's post. For me, the technique. I mean, the last time a free kick was scored by Aberdeen against Rangers was a certain James Maddison, who ain't a bad player, it turns out, And I think the technique that was used was outstanding. If you actually watch it from behind, there was a replay that was kind of behind where Duke was. That ball was at one point pitched above the crossbar, and then it's dipped wickedly. It was a classy free kick. Yes, there's a debate about whether it should be saved or not. That's fine. But I felt the coverage was a wee bit skewed. I felt I think Andy Walker said it's a magnificent strike, don't get me wrong, but then spent another 40 seconds talking about McGregor. And I just think that's the Scottish football attitude. Whereas I think that goal gets scored in other leagues and you talk about the absolute ability of the player who's managed to conjure that. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. I'm sure we've said it. If that had been Messi, we'd have just been raving about the Messi free kick rather than McGregor should have saved it. I accept that, yeah. But I still think he should have saved it.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. I mean, that's absolutely fair enough. I would expect him to save it.
But as I said, 2 or 3 years ago, McGregor would have saved that because 2 or 3 years ago he was playing really well. I mean, you can't get away from the fact he was doing real well. But like I said, just a man that's gone on too far. Yeah, Bob's got it right there. Both it catches up with us all, right? So Father Time, so can't fight him.
He's 41 in January. It's interesting. I mean, the thing is as well, though. I mean, with this Rangers team, what we watched last night was the 4 goals in 2 games under the new manager. Behind in both of those games. I know a lot of people take disheartened, shall we say. For a Celtic fan, you take there's a wee bit of deflation because they've took 6 points for those games. Honestly, from my point of view, Johnny, and I'm going to be completely, this isn't to get likes and to get curry favour with the fans. I've never done that in my life. I like to just tell the truth from my point of view. And obviously, if there's Celtic bias that comes out in that's because I love Celtic. That's just natural. But Johnny,
we're biased, Boycie.
But we probably are. That's fine. But I try to be a wee bit objective. I like to think I try and remain objective. But for me, I mean, I don't know how Bob's feeling, but 2nd of January, for me, it's this. Tick-tock. Where's that watch of mine? Tick-tock. Tick-tock. Because what does Celtic do to that team? You don't get away with all that nonsense against us. We will batter them, mate. And we're going to talk about the refereeing decision in a wee second, because I know people are going to try and already get those excuses in as if we're going to lose the game. I just feel watching what I watch both teams, by the way, almost religiously, because I'm camped in the attic, as it's called. I'm camped in here. I work here. I work from my desk. I've got Sky Sports on, and I watch every game that's on that's in the SPFL, and they tend to be the Celtic or Rangers. I watch the games. They don't hold a torch to the Celtic side. They're nowhere near it.
No.
And whilst there's moments of relief, and I think it was expressed in Arfield's celebration when he scored, I think you could see him absolutely, veins pulsing. I'm like, it's only about, it's very limited in terms of how long that will last, Scotty, because that will not be a moment in time this season that you've clawed the league back in any way, shape, or form, unless they do something in January drastically, and we do something in January even more drastically in terms of downsizing. I genuinely feel there's levels right now, Johnny. I watched, and the best thing we've got as an example before I come back to you. We've just watched us both play at the same ground against the same opponent. There's one team that you're backing in this title race, and there's one you're not, and it's Celtic, and it's Celtic by a long shot. And I'm not, well, maybe I'm saying it biased, and I don't even know it myself. But honestly, from what I've watched, I think they must be shitting themselves, Johnny, for the 2nd of January. That's my honest takeaway.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like I said, put it this way, there's not a single player for Rangers last night on that park who you would say, well, he'd make our team. Not a single player would get in there in our team, or our squad for that matter. Yep. I mean, I wouldn't take any of them. No. Not even a free transfer. And you talk about moments in time there with Arfield. It said that's not going to be. It's not his Tony Ralston Ross County moment, is it?
Exactly. That's a great point. And they can kid on it is, but it wasn't.
It's Spartan against Thunder, to be honest with you, isn't it? But
I like that.
What we got to remember, we didn't get the early Christmas present, and maybe we should say yet, because remember they're playing on Friday night up at Ross County.
Well, it's 3 games they've had a head start as well. 3 times since the return they're playing ahead of us, which of course lets them set the tone to an extent, Johnny. Honestly, I mean, I like to allow supporters to be emotional about supporting Celtic. I've spoken about this before. I think it's a love affair that we've got with the club that's, it's either like a current girlfriend or an ex-girlfriend or boyfriend in some people's cases.
Russell, it's almost unhealthy.
Aye. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, I can't shake this. Like, I can't live with you. I can't live without you. Yada, yada. You're up and down. So you're allowed emotionally to be up and down. But I feel like domestically, since Brendan came in particularly, and just really reinforced this feeling, I'm in complete zen, mate. Do you know what I mean? We're like, as I say, we've just given 2 examples. That late goal that Callum McGregor scored, I wasn't panicking up to the point he scored. I felt, the heart was going a wee bit quicker than normal, Johnny, but I was okay. Like, I was compared to normal, like what you would consider like normal Celtic matches at that time. You're panicking, right? You're going, oh my God, 6 minutes to go. I felt relative zen then. Last night, Rangers scored 2 goals in injury time. I should be waking up this morning going, oh, that one hurt a wee bit. I don't know if this is Ange effect, but I'm feeling pretty calm about all that as well. I think we're just in a good place, Johnny. And as I said at the top of the show, it doesn't matter what they do. We're going to come out of this shining.
Oh yeah, but yeah, we're in as good a place as we've been in a long time. And I heard you think you were talking about it on the PMP show on Saturday night when I was watching it. I watched it on the Sunday. you said we're ahead of schedule. We're 12 months ahead of Ange's schedule. So, that's how good a place we're in at the minute. I mean, when Ange came in, and I'm kind of going off the subject a little bit, but when Ange came in, I think we'd have all settled for a close run second. And instead, in the end, we canted away with it. And so that put us 12 months ahead of schedules for a start, the fact that we won the league. And where we are now, we're about 18 months ahead, but definitely 12 months ahead of schedule. So this is as good a place as we've been in since Brendan, to be honest with you, yeah.
That's exactly where I'm at, Johnny. Exactly where I'm at. Let's look ahead to tonight, because I'm looking forward to Celtic, first time at Paradise in over a month. It is Livingston who are the opposition. Now, Livingston have a media darling in David Martindale. However, whilst he's described as that in some quarters, I watched his open goal during the winter break. He did the open goal thing. He was on for like an hour and a half. He was actually excellent, right? I know he might be a Rangers fan. I don't care. He came over really well, and he's actually maybe got more of a clue than they get given credit to. Their record against us, though, we always get notoriously told Celtic's record against Livy is awful and it's crap. I mean, they've beat us once in the last 10 games. The away day hoodoo has been, completely put to bed by Ange. And at home, I'm very confident that tonight we just go out and batter them, Johnny. I mean, do you see any hurdles in front of us for Livy? I mean, is there anything you're concerned about in terms of our team lineup not being right, our attitude not being right, or Livingston's bringing some sort of surprise? Are you quite confident?
I'm quite confident, but Livingston are, Livingston are one of these teams that I always think, they could be a tough nut to crack. I mean, and you've just said there about the record, but it's a misconception, even possibly for myself, that they give us a tougher time than a lot of teams do, and they probably don't. Possibly because the last minute penalty kick Giacomakis miss is the one that really sticks in the head at the minute. Of course, I think since then we've been to. I know Phil McGinley doesn't like it. He always calls it Almondvale. We've been there twice since and beat them 3-0. Is that right? I think if I remember rightly.
Johnny, let's talk. I mean, see the Giacomakis penalty miss that day. There's a bit of context to that people forget, and this shows you how important it is to have the club in unity. Me and Jonathan were at the game. The first half an hour of that game, there was a sponsored silence, if you like, by the Green Brigade.
Yeah.
They were in protest, whatever it was at the time. It's my memory's failing me right now.
Was it not that Higgins?
Well, see, I was at the game with the Higgins with the tennis balls as well. So I'm not sure. Yeah, it was Higgins. It was the tennis balls are flung in the park. But was that another one who was saying about Higgins as well? Hearts, Aberdeen. One of the two.
I think it might be that one, yeah.
But anyway, there was a couple of games anyway last season where this happened. But that match where Giacomakis had the last minute penalty, he shouldn't have been the one taking it, right? He shouldn't have been. I think there was too much pressure on him. He's trying too hard. Another example of Giacomakis trying too hard. And I see where he's coming from, by the way. But we've not lost a home game against Livingston 17 games. There's no hoodoo here with Livingston. No. It's bullshit. I just think the 0-0 game got over exaggerated at the time because it was a combination of Ange's poor start to the season. Then this happened, and it looked like we'd kind of kicked on from there. And then that happened, and it looked like we stumbled again. But actually, it's not what happened at all.
I think did we go about 7 points behind after that because of that game?
So, yeah. I mean,
yeah. But I think that was probably a bit. But yeah,
there was more to it, though. That's what I'm saying. There was more to it. That first half an hour, Celtic Park being completely silent, because I know people say, well, it's up to the rest of the stands. Well, I think the rest of the stands now, whether rightfully or wrongfully, follow the Green Brigade's lead. And I think the Green Brigade, to be honest with you, kind of enjoy that being their role. That's just an observation from the outside, not a criticism. But I think they like it being, you sing whatever it is we're singing. And if we don't sing, I think almost it's got to the stage now, you'd feel a bit daft if you started to chant. Jeez, oh, Johnny, is that a landline? That'll wake you up in the morning. A landline, Johnny. Is that a fax machine, son?
No, it's,
but
just, it's the wife's work phone. She works from home every day except a Wednesday. So
red button it, mate. Red button it. Out of office. But I think there was more context to that than maybe meets the eye in terms of the result. However, you know, the judges and look at that. I'm under pressure already. The judge, he's saying Livy at home, Dundee away with the tennis balls. I think he's right.
I think he is right. Yeah, either Dundee or Dundee United. The tennis balls was definitely up in Dundee. So
aye, I mean, as Billy Subs Grant comes in and says, "Well, we're 10 points better off than we were last year." That'll do. I mean, this is the thing. We're setting our own standards here. They might change manager 4 times a season if they're trying to keep up with the form we're in. What is it? 1 defeat in the last 48 league games. Yeah. 1. That's a juggernaut right now, Johnny. And I fully expect that to continue against Livingston tonight. Without disrespecting them, I just completely am in the camp that whatever Livingston bring, we'll bring more.
Yeah, we'll. As I was just trying to say that I think Livingston have got this. I've always got this impression that Livingston give us a tough game, but I'm expecting to win tonight. And if we don't win, I'm expecting to win by 3 goals at minimum.
Aye, Johnny, I totally agree with that. Let's talk about Ange, because Ange was on a. You know, sometimes he can be quite dry. It can be quite short in his pressers. He was a bit more animated yesterday. People want to call that being pissed off. I don't know. I just think he was in that mood where he thought, I'm gonna play ping pong with him a wee bit today. You know, I'm gonna bat a few answers back with a bit of panache, a bit of style, and that's what he did. I think the other team comment by Mickey Beale may have triggered this. It's just I think this is a wee bit of psychology going on between the two. I'm just completely in control of this destiny, by the way, wherever this journey wants to go. And I think Michael Beale should be focusing on his team. Michael Beale came out and covered up the other team jibe, saying, "Oh, I just meant like I would say about anyone." He knew exactly what he was saying. He was pandering to the deluded. He was pandering to the brown brogue stuff, and he was, whether he wants to admit it or not. I think he's went full circle on it because the aftermath of it has been quite negative on him, or you know, and it's like, whoa, you need to get your own house in order before you start that shite, mate. Whereas Ange is in a position of power, he can have these jibes, he can have fun with it, and what, of course, he decides to do is talk about, you know, we're totally different teams, mate. You know, and he was posed the question because he didn't understand the logic that somehow every time. Oh, he was actually quoting opposition managers. Well, he didn't quote them. He was saying, "I don't like it when I hear opposition managers saying they bundle it together." He goes, "I don't know if it's just language that they use, because surely," he goes, "they prepare for us differently than they prepare to, you know, to Rangers." And he's absolutely spot on. I mean, Johnny, you can't bundle these two teams together, and if you do, it's very naive. I just got the vibe off him. A couple of things have pissed him off recently, Johnny, and I think yesterday he decided, you know what, I'm going to bite back a wee bit. I'm going to give you some headlines. I'm going to give you some column inches, and it's going to be based on me kind of reminding people of how the what is it called? What's it called in the jungle? You know, not the circle of life, but you know what I mean? Like how it is at the top of the food chain. That's right, yeah. I'm trying to say how it feels to be at the top of the food chain. And I think he was just a wee reminder, we're at the top of the food chain. And if you want to give me any more fodder, I'll eat it. And I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah, he's I get the impression with Ange, I don't think he likes. He's comfortable with the media. He doesn't like being there. I think Russell's decided to bugger off. He's comfortable being with the media, but there was a couple of times I was watching it yesterday with his arm, his chin resting in the palm of his hand. It was almost like, yeah, I'm quite happy to be here, but I'd be even happier if I wasn't. I think Russell and that spoke about it before, that, you know, the fanfare that Beale's came into with not a fantastic record on his own, management-wise, whether he's... I thought you fell asleep there, Russell.
I'm back, mate. Don't you worry. I'm back. I was listening to you. I just haven't chased the dog out the room. Sorry, mate.
Oh, all right. No, I was just saying that I think he's comfortable with the media, but he doesn't like. I don't think he likes dealing with them. Some by his manners, the way he was sitting yesterday, he was sitting like this a couple of times, but what he's saying, yeah, we are a complete, we are a different animal, we're a different team, and he doesn't compare one team to the other. I mean, he said he even changed it in the Aberdeen game on the weekend. He explained why he took Maeda off, but as mere football fans, we would say it's because he was playing fish. But he says it's because Maeda's greatest strength is his pace to get past somebody. But if they're sitting that tight, you've got nowhere to run, then you take away his whatever effect he's going to have on you. But as a Barra, who's maybe not the trickiest winger in the world, but he is more willing to have a run at somebody and try and get past them.
Do you know what I love, Johnny? Do you know what I loved in that, though? He was basically accepting Aberdeen set up differently to what I expected them. Now, everyone wants to batter Aberdeen for that, which is fine, and we battered them at the weekend for it. To be fair, on the PMP with Terry Robb, but realistically, when you think about it, Johnny, what Ange was saying was they kind of caught me off guard. I didn't expect him to line up like that. I set up a team set up for a completely different style of play that Aberdeen did. I recognised it. I changed it.
Yeah. So it kind of proves he's got more than one way to play a game. It's like Ange says, he plays the same system, but he has different players who play in that position, but bring different things to the party.
Yeah. I think so.
Somebody brings a bottle of gin to the party, somebody else brings a bottle of vodka.
And they both end up with me. You're absolutely right, Johnny.
Well, a Grey Goose for Mark.
He's a two-can Dan him. Right. One other thing I want to speak to you about, Johnny. We've discussed on the bus previously, obviously we're speaking about every single aspect of Celtic, let's be honest. Youth players. I got the vibe, now I could be proved wrong, but Ange hasn't ever given all that much respect to, firstly, other players in the SPFL, based on the fact we've only ever signed Siegrist from the SPFL since Ange took over. And our youth team, he's obviously drastically changed the setup by putting Steve McManus in situ alongside Darren O'Day. And that would suggest to me he wasn't happy with what he seen with the B team last year. That being said, today we wake up with yet another one of our youths. It was Lawal, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, that was linked yesterday with the move down to Brentford. Today it's... Yeah, Lawal was linked with Brentford and a few other clubs in Europe. And today it's O2, Ewan O2. He's been linked with Villa, Fulham, Burnley. It's interesting because there's a Twitter page that is quite clearly not Neil Lennon, but I think it's Neil Lennon's agent, Martin Riley. I could be wrong, so disclaimer, I'm not saying that it's fact, Martin, before you try and sue me. Great pantheon. But what I will say is that he put out a post saying, other managers, and I don't agree with everything he says, by the way, but everything he says is pro Neil Lennon, right? But what he was alluding to was, look at Ange's record of playing youth players. Other managers would be getting more scrutiny for it. I've kind of defended Ange on it because I'm like, he has a job to do last season in particular. And even this year, my hunch is he just hasn't rated what he's seen. It's his gift. You're the manager. If you don't rate what you've seen, don't pick them. However, when you look at the clubs that have been linked with, that's two more starlets at Celtic, that have been linked, Johnny, with, Brentford's, as bizarre as this must sound to both yourself and me, you're based down south. Brentford is an EPL club, it's weird, but they are. And they've got the foundations there to enhance young talent, etc. And they've got the believe it or not, the vast resources probably that we don't even have to pay them higher wages than what they're due. They've been linked to the player yesterday, like Lawal. Today it's Villa, Fulham, Burnley, all linked with Ewan O2. Are we seeing enough of these youth players getting a chance? I mean, if these clubs are being linked with them, that would suggest to me they must be doing something right. Because what on earth are these scouts that have obviously been watching them seeing in these young players?
Yeah, it's like the what's it? Is it Bosun Lowell? Is he the one
Yes.
linked with Brentford? Yeah. And what you got to remember about Brentford is they're a very well run club, and they have been
Agreed.
for at least back
Is
to
it-
Mark Warburton's days.
Is it
I mean,
Danish folk? It's a Danish consortium or chairman they've got.
They might be
You know, I think
Scandinavian at least, yeah.
I think
But-
he owns Midtjylland. Ken Midtjylland who put us out the Champions League
Yeah.
last year. I'm sure they've got a correlation.
It might be, but but they've been a well-run club for quite a number of years, and they've over the last 5 years they've sold players on for big money. And I'm talking 30 and 40 million pounds worth. I mean, who was the lad that they sold to Aston Villa? Can't remember his name now. I mean, he plays up front for Villa at the minute, but they've sold players like him for 30 and 40 million pounds. So they've been and not spent it all. They've had the player trading model of we buy them, we sell them big, and then we replace them with what you're saying we shouldn't do at Celtic with somebody from a few million quid and then do the same. And they've been doing that for years. Now they've also got the Premiership riches.
Yes.
So they've got the money, they've got the foundation and the money. There's no reason why Brentford can't consolidate. I'm not saying they'll ever become a Premier League power, but there's no reason why they can't be a mid-table Premiership team for the next few years. But what they're seeing, I can't say what they're seeing in these young guys because I don't see the young guys at all. The only football Celtic coverage I really see is the first team stuff, if I'm being honest. So, but they must be seeing something. We brought that Bosun Lowell up from Watford, didn't we? Was Watford we got him from?
I can't remember.
So he must have seen something that attracted him to come up to Celtic in the first place. Did he expect to still be a B team player now? I don't know how old the guy is.
Yeah, but it's the opportunities that I'm thinking of. That's what I mean. We look at how often the 5 sub rule that I think was getting used as a conspiracy in some sites, Bob McBobble and Lightners and that a wee bit more than we can. But I some of the screenshots I've seen on Twitter and all that recently, seems to be the 5 sub rule benefits them too much. That being said, we don't really use the 5 sub rule to benefit us in terms of putting youth players in that often. Let's be honest. In fact, I can't think of one youth player and just put in at the first team. They're getting linked with moves away. Maybe that suggests there is talent there to be unearthed, but Ange's on mission. He's on a mission that is immediate, which I kind of like as well. Do you know what I mean? I think when he brings in players, we've spoken about the longevity of the contracts that he brings players in. That lays foundations. But I also notice that Ange seems to, when we think about these players being linked away, he doesn't seem to bat that much of an eyelid at, right, you're doing well in the B team, brilliant. Doesn't mean you're good enough for my first team. I'm results driven.
Well, yeah, and he has to be. It's a results-driven business at the end of the day, isn't it? I mean, and Ange's he has actually seen what happens when the results at Celtic when the results don't come, as in his first 6 games. We've spoken about it before in the bus. Again, going back to Pittodrie, that was the defining moment for Ange, wasn't it? With the first away win in the Premiership for him. So it's like you said, Russell. Either he's not seeing it, or they're not suiting him, or they're not. Nah, they don't fit what I want to do. They're not going to do what I want to do. So, and if they leave, they leave. I think he's very much relaxed in that department regarding any player. To be honest with you,
I trust his judgment on that. By the way, I totally trust his judgment on that.
Yeah, but you have to, don't you? Yeah,
because
he's not got an awful lot wrong in that respect.
One last talking point, Johnny. He was alluding yesterday too. There being already a third signing we're very close to. Now, we don't know what position that's going to be. We've got no idea who that person is. None of us on the bus kid on to be ITK and put green ticks below daft, obvious stories. But that being said, how refreshing is it? Because Ange, see, one other thing I'm going to talk about as well, in fact, just it kind of coincides. We were speculating how much autonomy Ange has on transfers and things. So he's getting asked the Juranovic question yesterday, Johnny, right? And what I liked was, I can tell you right now, there's no bids for our players. Well, before managers would say, not or in fact, the standard manager rhetoric is that's above my head. You know, whatever the club do, you know. Whereas he's kind of like letting you know. I thought it was a wee bit of insight. I thought he was basically letting you know I'm involved in this shit, right? Which is good. But if there's a third player already identified and close to being in the door, this is all before the window opens on the 1st of January. How fucking refreshing is that, Johnny? That's quality, mate. This is what we want for Celtic. This is being the proactive Celtic I've demanded for the last 12 months of the bus. But, you know, deep down, I've always wanted us to be.
Oh, it's a complete sea change for us. We're used to the last. That's I was going to say apparently it is that Korean striker. That's who's mentioned in the papers this morning. But it's a complete sea change for us because we're used to one of two things happening at the end of each transfer window. Oh, we tried to get this guy, but it all fell through at the last minute. Then we didn't get him, or we got a John Joe Kenny. You know, we did have that little spell where we were getting Bellamy, Keane, as in Robbie.
But these were all last days of the window stuff, Johnny.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying there. So we've been conditioned to that. That's how we operated, and that's how as supporters we expected that. And these deals went one of two ways. They either came through at the last minute, or they apparently went tits up at the last minute. Whereas now Ange isn't a last minute guy unless it's goals. You know, that's
good. That's good, Johnny.
That's the only last minute that Ange is interested in. He wants because he's known the guys he's wanted for at least a couple of months. We know that with Alistair Johnston for a fact. So he knows what he wants. He says, right, and I'm sure he's gone with this list. Said, I want them, and them done. And as it put in the paper this morning, he expects this one to be done before Nicholson goes on holiday at Christmas. Now, whether that will be the last of the business, I don't know, obviously, because, well, like you said, we don't claim to be in the know. But it's completely refreshing. It's something I never thought we'd ever get around to seeing at Celtic, to be honest with you, the way things were up until the last 18 months. But he's in complete control of transfers, in my opinion. I want him. Go and get him. And if you don't get him, I want to know why.
Johnny, you're spot on. David Lowe comes back in. I mean, he's commenting quite a lot, Johnny. It looks to me like he's just kind of pulled a sickie on the breakfast bar.
Lack of commitment. I'll have words. I'll stop his pocket money.
But David's spot on with his comment here because I think he's right. What condition does I think last minute big signings? That's what you're after, or last minute drama like CCV, Giacomacca, Jota all signed. That is pushing the boundaries of fortune in your favour. We can't afford to be like that, and I think Ange accepted it first time round because he was working in such a limited time. But now Ange is like, I'm in situ, I'm the boss, and the signings we now make will be pre-planned. I'll tell you who to go out and get, and we're going to get them done. We're going to get business done early. We've seen this in January last year. I am convinced last January's transfer window was the most effective that Ange Postecoglou's had by a country mile. I'm in no doubt. Put it this way, Johnny. We look at Abelgard joining on the last day of the window at the end of the summer. I mean, did you even remember his name? You know, when we played our last game at the weekend, you'd forgotten his name at Pittodrie. You never crossed your mind. He never came across your mind's landscape. He was out of it. You were never considered, and yet he was heralded at that time. You know, we've signed a Danish international. It's all bullshit, all that stuff. The last January, we had boom, 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 3 signings done, 1st of January. And Maeda, Hatate, Ideguchi, it's not worked out for Gucci. That's fine. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, as Meatloaf used to sing. And I'm all for that. We then brought in Matt O'Reilly about 14 days later.
Yeah, and he didn't drag his feet on that one either, did he?
No, basically,
because it was meant to be Riley McGree.
He says no. Already got the next one there. You're spot
And then
on.
Ange's sitting at a press conference saying we're not going to be buying anybody else, and if you say that we are, then it's all lies because you don't know nothing. And then 48 hours later, O'Reilly's walking through the door. So let's say he didn't drag his feet.
An MK Don signing that, let's be completely frank here as well, talking about that O'Reilly one, Johnny, if Neil Lennon in a title race had brought in an MK Dons, because at this point it's a title race, remember there's only a matter of minimal points, between the two clubs, and we brought in an MK Dons midfielder, he'd have got fucking slated for that.
We'd have been frothing at the mouth over that.
I think so. He just had so much goodwill in the bank based on the other signings he'd made over the two windows that we thought, fuck it, let's give him a go. And thank God we did, because Matt O'Reilly, I love him as a footballer. I think he's absolutely top for Celtic, and I think he will be a mainstay going forward. But that January window last year, I felt was a game changer. This January window, we seem to be just as organised, Johnny. Just as
organised. And the strange thing is, January windows are meant to be the difficult ones to do. You don't buy players in January because they're panic buys. You're either, all right, it's maybe more to do with England than in Scotland, but you're either buying somebody to try and get out of relegation or to get into the into a Champions League position or whatever. But they're considered. You listen to Simon Jordan on TalkSport. He says all the time, January is not the time. January is not the time to buy a player. You're panic buying, and clubs can shove the price up because they know you're desperate. And yet we seem to do our best business in January.
Well, because come January, if this third signing that Andrew's alluding to, and by the way, he gives nothing away unless he's pretty certain. So I think there will be a third signing announced before the 1st of January, judging by the way Angie's whole attitude. He was in confident mood yesterday. Maybe the reason he was so I don't know, bubbly, shall we call it, yesterday in the interview, it's because he's got the deal over the line yesterday. And he couldn't help but he couldn't keep it under a lid. This is a guy who's pretty in check of his emotions. But when you consider all that, if we've got 3 signings done again ahead of the window, none of them can be categorised as a normal January signing. Because a normal January signing, you're spot on, fundamentally means that you are paying over the odds because there is an immediate cause, an immediate pressure that requires this sort of this addition, this further ammunition for your, whether it be a title charge or staving off relegation in Premier League terms. But with us, it seems to be this all part of the progressive planning. And do you know the best bit is, Johnny? No matter what happens in January, we'll walk out with profit as well.
Yeah, that's definitely. But the other thing about these 3 in January is that they're not necessarily being bought for a title push next year. There'll be is that I'm coming up with these excuses? So they're not being necessarily being brought in as the guys to do the title push. They're being set up for next season.
Yep, and whatever role they need to play, they'll play. But it just feels like he's got this game by the bollocks right now. And do you know what? I don't even think Andrew's a genius. I don't think he's the genius that he gets made out to be. I just think he just looks at Celtic objectively from the outside and goes, why haven't you always been like this? Like, this is what you do. Do you know what I mean? And if you need to flip a player every now and then, that's fine. But don't bullshit people. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't. I think he's way ahead, and I think people are over maybe egging. This isn't a criticism of Ange, but I just feel at times when I'm looking at it going, it's quite obvious what he's doing. Really, it's not reinventing the wheel. This is exactly how Celtic should have been operating, Johnny.
I've just had a thought pop into my head now, Russ.
Go for it.
Could you imagine? Now, it would have meant there'd be no Brendan Rodgers and whatnot, but what if we'd got Ange in 2012 and he wanted to work to the philosophy he's working now? We'd be so far away and over the hill. It'd be where we would be where you've said where we should have been.
Yeah.
Because we had 10 years of a free run.
Do you know the thing is? 10 in a row wouldn't have been his biggest achievement.
No, he wouldn't have bothered about it, to be honest with you.
He'd have went, well, it's there, but it wasn't actually what I was striving for when I took over.
He'd have been where you say we should be. You've been saying it since I've been watching the bus and talking to you on the bus. We'd be at the sort of, if not there, we'd be a damn sight closer to where you want us and where we all want us to be as far as a European competing team. I'm not saying winning it, so before anybody gets excited and says I'm saying we don't want it, but if we'd had Ange in 2012 when Rangers died, we'd be so far out of reach of anybody in Scotland, it would be unbelievable.
No, you're right, Johnny. Anyway, we're going to need to wrap up.
Oh, that one, yeah.
And I like what Michael's saying, and welcome back on the bus, Michael. Brilliant to have you on. Imagine it was Ange straight after Rodgers. Well, that would be that would have been exciting. Although I do think as well we've all been deflated if Ange Postecoglou, who no one had heard of by then, he hadn't had a J League in his trophy cabinet by then either. I don't know how, I think I think it was always a come down from Rodgers anyway, unless we went and got, strike to stay in that sort of market. Anyway, different debate. Johnny, it's nearly Christmas, mate. It's the 21st of December. You all set?
Oh, yeah. All set. All done. We've had our Christmas day.
Oh, that's right, because you're away to Jamaica, aren't you?
Yep. Saturday morning.
Jammy bastard.
Aye.
Jammy bastard, man. Right, before we go, what's everyone's favourite Christmas song? We're getting into that. I might even listen to some Christmas songs today. What's your favourite Christmas song?
That's just too easy.
Pogues.
Eh?
Pogues?
Oh, yeah.
Fairy Tale New York.
But so the thing I like about the Pogues, apart from the fact it's fantastic song anyway, and you can listen to it any time of the year, really. But if we take it to a sort of Christmas song, then it's going to be Bruce Springsteen's Live, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. B-side of my hometown.
Aye.
I don't know if anybody knows, but I'm a massive Springsteen fan and looking forward to seeing him at Murrayfield in May.
How long is he playing for? About 3 days? Honestly, man.
I think he's cut back a bit. I've seen him a couple of times before, and I've seen him for 3 hours and 3.5 hours, and that wasn't with the E Street Band. But yeah, he puts in a show.
I couldn't be arsed with that, mate. I'd be like, hurry up and play your classics and fuck off. You know what I mean? But Springsteen's a legend. But the Pogues one's obviously an obvious one. Where am I with a Christmas song? I don't know, man. I like Last Christmas. I like George Michael anyway. I just think he's the best. I just think he's one of the best singers ever. I like Last Christmas, but I don't know. It's quite obvious. It's maybe a bit too obvious. I tell you what, I'll give a belter. The Pretenders, 2,000 Miles. That is a tune. Chrissy Heineken, she was cool, man.
Yeah, Emerson, Lake and Palmer's another good one as well, They said there'd be snow at Christmas.
Oh, yes. Very good. Well, we will be back on the bus tonight for some PMP. It's not quite Christmas Day yet. Johnny Logue, you're jetting off to Jamaica, mate. Thank you for all your efforts.
Christmas.
Yes, mate. You too. Enjoy Jamaica. Thank you so much for joining us on the breakfast bar. Just as well, everyone, beware of all those sinister people out there, because it's snowy outside, it's frosty, there could be ice in the road. Don't be sinister.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.